Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Waypoint. Today we are playing Quake Live once again. As you may have noticed, things on the channel look slightly different, and that's because I had a very productive Sunday indeed. I decided to finally take the time to go out of my way to redesign the channel thumbnail templates, which is something I've been putting off for a while because graphic design is most certainly not my passion. It started out with me going back to Canva, which is the website program I use to create my thumbnails because I don't own Photoshop or anything expensive like that, and I looked at some of the text stuff because what I originally wanted to do with my thumbnails was to create a light border around my text so that it would be distinguishable from the background. However, that's not an option in Canva, and I did play around with trying to do that by just like duplicating the text and making it slightly bigger and sending it to the back and making it black, but that doesn't work for whatever reason. It doesn't line up in the way you would expect it to. This was a few years ago though, and that's when I finally came up with the concept of what about just semi-translucent boxes. Semi-translucent black boxes on the background for the text to hover in front of to make it look kind of swish. My problem with that though is that it kind of restricts the actual thumbnail art a lot of the time. For instance, I might take a screenshot that I think would make a fantastic thumbnail, but there's no way to zoom it out further. Like, the character head is at the top of a frame, and if a character head is at the top of a frame, you better believe Adventures in Eorzea is going to cover that shit. So I went back to the drawing board on Sunday and I found that Canva has added some new features to the text. Not the obvious border thing that still doesn't exist on that website, but the neon stuff that you're seeing now, which makes it stand out delightfully. I might still tinker with it a little bit, you might notice in the coming weeks. Like, it's still going to have the same kind of style, but I think I made the font a lot bigger in one of my upcoming Eorzea videos, and I know you can make the neon more intense, which will make it contrast better against the background in certain cases, so I might still mess around with it a little bit, but for the most part, I'm happy with how it looks. I was kind of messing around with this and showing it off to Reese and being like, something seems missing, and that's when I realised that if I had a light border around it which matched the colour of the text, it would kind of bring it all together. Having that kind of like borderless edge where the picture just kind of gives it this cheap look of it going on forever. It makes it just look like it's a raw thumbnail that I've chosen from YouTube and it just happens to have text on it. And I've always kind of liked having a little outline, a little thin outline around things as like an aesthetic, whether that's a cel-shaded game or a Microsoft Word document. I just like it, and so I was like, that'll be easy to do, right? And it turns out not. Well, the way I make the border around the edges of these video thumbnails is that basically I just make the background a solid colour, because normally the background is the screenshot, but I make the background a solid colour and then I just post the screenshot in and crop it a bit and try and make sure that all the four borders have the same kind of width around them as they do in the rest of the videos, which is a little bit more time consuming than it used to be when it comes to making thumbnails, but hey, I think the payoff is worth it. I also made another thumbnail template for the Blurble Reasoning videos. That's a lot more simple. That's just a picture of the audiobook on one side and a wooden table background with the Blurble Reasoning in a different neon font on the other side. I did not spend nearly as long on that. And I don't think it particularly looks as good as maybe some of the other thumbnails that I've got on the channel now, but I think it does the job. It makes it stand out as a different kind of video type, so people who subscribe just for those kind of know which videos to click on, I guess. If all of this talk about thumbnails bores the shit out of you, as it rightfully should, thank you for indulging me, because this was my entire Sunday. I run a one-man channel over here in my spare time, so all the videos you get are recorded by me, they star me, they're edited by me, and the metadata and thumbnails are created by me. I'm a one-man credits job, so if the quality of any of those things varies across the board, it's because perhaps I'm better at video editing than I am about graphic design. Speaking of video editing, guess who finally found a solution to recording Xbox clips with microphone audio attached without having to throw down £200 on a shiny new capture card? That's right, it's me, it's your boy. I'm gonna stop talking like this now. To quickly walk you through the process, basically I have my PC and my Xbox on, which, sorry, that's usually how it goes though, and if something happens in the game, I hit share to make the Xbox clip at around the same time that I hit the the Control Windows G or whatever the shortcut is. I kind of do it by muscle memory now, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I press the clip that button on my PC at the same time, and then my Xbox uploads the clip to the server, which I then download it from, and then I just mash the audio from a desktop clip with the rest of the Xbox clip. And I guess the reason I never tried this before is because that sounds like a nightmare, right? Syncing up the audio for like 30 or 40 individual clips. But while it does take longer than just making an Adventures in Eorzea video, it turns out it's actually not so bad. It's doable, and I'm gonna keep doing it. If I was making a long form video that was like 20 or 30 minutes long, then yes, I would have to worry about syncing the audio up. And if I was playing with another player whose voice you could hear, then yes, that would absolutely be a nightmare of syncing. But when it comes to these Adventures in Miscellaneous Shenanigans style videos, it turns out that it's a lot easier to do that kind of thing, because it doesn't matter if it's like a nanosecond out of sync. As long as I make sure that the audio of what I'm saying lines up in a reasonable way with the audio of a clip, then you're not going to notice. It's not like it's not the same as having audio desync on a 20-minute video, basically. So with that being said, look out for Adventures in Final Fantasy X coming soon to a YouTube channel near you, or at least one episode of it. I'll probably make an episode 2, but who knows. Should we talk about video games? Let's talk about video games. The other day I swapped out the old Forza Horizon 3 for Forza Horizon 4 on my Xbox because my mate wanted to play it with me, and well, yeah, I was like, sure, let's do it. And so I've spent the last few days getting reacquainted with Forza Horizon 4, and my god, I forgot how much I bloody love that game. Forza Horizon 3 is still fantastic, but I'm no longer certain about which game is better. I think they're both really fucking good. I've specifically been cleaning up achievements because I have loads of achievements in that game which I had like at 90% or 85%, so I've been going around smashing billboards, finding the last like scenic routes, trying to drive down every road in particular places, stuff like that, but also just you know, hanging out, doing races, doing a zoom. Something I've never really bothered with in that game is its seasonal content, and that's mostly because that game just throws cars at you, and I can't see why I would want to work my butt off on a seasonal thing to try and get more cars. Like, I get that they might be rarer cars, but I don't think they're ever unique cars. Although I haven't really been playing since they added all the Horizon backstage car list stuff, which I think are unique cars. All the same though, I feel like I've got all my bases covered. I've got a good rally car, I've got the fastest car in the game, I've got 7 different transit vans, you know, like, what do I need that I don't already have? That being said, I thought, well, I might as well do some of this seasonal content just because it's fun, and then I found out there were achievements tied to it anyway, so I might as well do that at least once. I'm starting to view car collecting in that game as less of a necessity of making sure I've got different cars, and more as like a collectible thing of like trying to get every car, like all 700 cars in the game or something absurd like that. And I think that is going to be what makes the game a little bit more interesting to me in terms of like doing seasonal stuff. So that's pretty fun. I also jumped into some of the, by way of doing the seasonal stuff, into some of like the online races, which I've never really bothered with before as well, and that's a pretty fun way to experience the game too. The online multiplayer stuff is still a little bit janky. I was playing with my friend last night, and he had a Forza 4 live, so I was like, let's go do that, and he was like, oh, it's like 3 minutes away. I was like, oh, my game's telling me it's like 2 hours, like 2 hours and 45 minutes away, or whatever it was. And lo and behold, when the Forza Fun Live event actually popped, everyone around us phased out, and my friend did not get access to the event, and my game was still telling me it's 2 hours and 45 minutes away. Plus, there seems to be a bug at the minute where if you just queue for an online racing adventure, you get put into like a 10-minute loading screen. If you do any of the seasonal stuff, that doesn't seem to be the case, but just like doing the adventure by yourself, yeah, that doesn't seem to be going well. I want to see if a ranked playlist is the same, because that's the last seasonal thing I have to do this week, because if you're not aware, in Forza Horizon, the literal season, like the time of the year, changes every week, and every 4 weeks, an entire 4-season cycle goes by, and that's called a series, and you get stuff for completing seasonal objectives, and you get stuff for completing series objectives, which encompasses those 4 seasons. So the only seasonal thing that I have left that I need to do is to get ranked in the online racing adventure stuff. So later on, probably while this is rendering, I'm going to try and queue for that, but I'm worried I'm going to be met with the same 10-minute loading screen bug. Speaking of ranked real quick though, I think it's super interesting that in games like Overwatch and Destiny, I've always looked at ranked gameplay as something I would never want to go near because it's stressful and you have to perform well all the time, and you have to do teamwork and stuff like that, and you might end up looking really bad and harming your ranking in a way and harming other people's ranking. But when it comes to racing games, I'm just yeah, sure, fuck it, ranked, who cares? For some reason, maybe it's because it's not so much teamwork based, although I think that might be the case in Forza Horizon 4 with the team adventure stuff. But even then, it's based on the team's individual performances. Obviously don't crash into each other, but other than that, just don't let the team down by trailing last all the time, you know? It might also help that in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe there's no such thing as casual playlist and ranked playlist or anything like that, but every time you race online in that game, your ranking does change, so basically it's just always ranked. So I guess maybe that's kind of normalized me to that kind of gameplay in racing games anyway. But yeah, I can safely say I've probably played Forza Horizon 4 for upwards of 200 hours at this point across all time, and there is still so much that game has for me to do. Not even in terms of multiplayer, there's still single player stories I haven't done, there's still individual tracks I haven't raced, and that game is just the gift that keeps on giving. If you've got Game Pass, I highly recommend it. Just the base game alone that Game Pass gives you is oh, so good. In other news, I'm still playing the absolute shit out of Final Fantasy XIV. I've just started Stormblood, and I've just unlocked the Samurai job, which I am currently in love with. It's amazing. The story for Stormblood so far has a slow start, and I've heard from others online that it's perhaps not as good as Heavensward, but it's absolutely worth getting through for what is apparently a phenomenal story in Shadowbringers. But because it was so slow, I did eventually decide that, you know what, fuck it, I want to try out Samurai because it's been on my mind for a long time. So I'm very glad that I did that. Also, I get my second COVID jab tomorrow, so that's going to be fun. I have to get up fairly early to go and get it, and I work late tonight, so I'm kind of annoyed about it more than anything else, just because of that. But I'm also super grateful that I'm able to get mine done so early. So yeah, hopefully that all goes well. I hope you're doing well too, and that brings us to the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.